hours away from the American people getting to see the House Intelligence Committee report, which lays out that committee's case really to impeach President Trump. The document is expected to conclude the president abused his power by pushing Ukraine to investigate his rival for political gain. The committee will vote tonight to approve the report. They will send it to the Judiciary Committee. That panel will hold its first public hearing tomorrow. House Republicans are already fighting back. They have a pre-buttal to that report, ignoring incriminating evidence against the president. Joining me now is Independent Senator Angus Hinds. He's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which matters here. Angus King, I should say. Senator King, I have a friend named Angus Hinds. I've done that to you before.
You have. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Senator King, I'm thrilled you're here
Frank?
with us.
I'm not sure.
Frank Hinds, thanks for being with us. Listen, the House Republicans put out this report, not just sort of denying the evidence, but also suggesting that it was Ukraine. Ukraine attacked the United States in the 2016 election. You were more than a bystander here. The Senate Intelligence Committee, which you sit on, investigated this. What did you, in fact, find on that matter?
Well, I want to clear one thing up, John, right away. There was no specific hearing or briefing on Ukraine per se. There's been some reporting on that. I want to clarify that. On the other hand, I bet I've sat through 25 hearings, briefings, meetings, probably more, on the question of what happened in 2016. In none of those meetings was there ever a hint, a breath, a suggestion, a word that somehow Ukraine was involved in the 2016 election, in the interference or the influence campaign. It was Russia. And it was Russia in a systematic, widespread way. And I think what's happening here, people are seizing on, well, some people in Ukraine reacted negatively when the president during the campaign said that maybe Crimea should remain part of Russia. I mean, that would be like us being angry that somebody else took Florida. I mean, it was understandable, but that's been blown up into this somehow that Ukraine was involved in the 2016 interference campaign. It wasn't.
Let me just put a fine point on this. Which country attacked the United States election system in 2016?
Russia.
Is there any evidence that you saw that there was a top-down effort by Ukraine to attack the 2016 election?
No.
What do you make of Republicans, including the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Richard Burr, suggesting, and this was to NBC last night, I don't think there's any question that elected officials in Ukraine had a favorite in the election. Why would they say that?
Because some elected officials in Ukraine, as I mentioned, reacted publicly saying they didn't like candidate Trump because he suggested that Crimea should be left with Russia. They were stating their views. That's a lot different than hacking a server, distributing emails through WikiLeaks, and a concerted social media campaign that was run out of Moscow and St. Petersburg. So, yes, there were Ukrainians who said they weren't crazy about this guy because he essentially countenanced the dismemberment of their country by Russia. But that's a lot different than the campaign that the Russians undertook.
No top-down effort, no systematic effort by the Ukrainian government to attack the United States election. There's just such a big difference there, Senator. Thank you for helping us understand what that difference is. You also have an op-ed in USA Today, which quotes a Sherlock Holmes story that I like about the dog that didn't bark. Explain to me what you mean by that.
Well, I love, that's one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes stories. That quickly, the story is that Sherlock Holmes, there was a crime committed at a farmhouse. Sherlock Holmes visited the dog in the barn, barked like crazy. And then they determined that the night of the crime, the dog didn't bark, which Holmes deduced meant that the crime was an inside job. The dog knew who the intruder was. The dogs that's not barking in this case are the major figures in the Trump administration that could set this matter to rest in a matter of minutes. And I'm talking about Mick Mulvaney, Secretary Pompeo, John Bolton, Rudolph Giuliani, all of whom, if they would go under oath and testify, subject to examination, that nothing happened, nothing of what has been suggested about the president using his office for personal or political gain, they could clear this up. And so the point of my op-ed was sometimes silence tells you a lot. And the fact that they're not coming forward and the president won't let them come forward, I think is a matter that needs to be reckoned with.
Look, in the Sherlock Holmes story, the silence pointed to an inside job, pointed to guilt. Are you suggesting their silence in and of itself is incriminating?
Well, it certainly raises a serious question. I'm not sure I'd use the word incriminating, but when you add the silence to the fact that they are being told not to come, that really raises a question. I know of no forum, no legal forum, where an accused person is allowed to control the witnesses coming before the fact-finding body. In fact, in most situations, an accused person trying to control witnesses is a crime in itself. And in this case, the president, who just did it again this morning, says, I'm innocent, it was perfect, I did nothing wrong. If that's the case, he should be insisting that these people come forward because they could clear him in 5 minutes. The fact that A, they aren't coming forward, and B, he's told them not to come forward, to not release documents, to control documents at the State Department and within the White House. That's, you know, I'm from Maine and we apply common sense. And common sense tells me in this case, there's something that's being hidden here.
Look, and you've been reluctant to talk to us the last month or so because you will be a juror in a Senate impeachment trial when it comes to that. But clearly you think that something's going on now that is worthy of speaking out.
Well, I've been a conservative on this issue from the very beginning. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I've been saying, no, we shouldn't do impeachment. We shouldn't even be talking about it. Let the election decide in 2020. This Ukrainian business and a direct use of the president's power to achieve something of a personal or political gain, I think it's contrary to my oath to ignore. And so I've supported the fact-collecting process, and this is just another part of it. And I don't know what those people will say. But I'm saying if all is innocent here, there are people who know to a certainty what the president said and did and what he was thinking. Let them come forward and tell us.
And just to round this up where we began, who wants this idea? Which leader benefits from the notion that it wasn't Russia who attacked the U.S. election in 2016, that it was some other country?
There are two people that benefit from that idea. One of them is Donald Trump, and the other is Vladimir Putin. This whole idea that Ukraine was behind the interference in the election, the first I saw of it publicly was Putin at a press conference with the president of Hungary in February of 2017. This was less than a month after the president was inaugurated. So this is a Russian, I believe, it's a Russian disinformation campaign, which is, you know, that's something they've been doing for 50 years. Back in the Soviet Union days, they're trying to misdirect and blame somebody else. If you don't think the Russians did it, go and read the indictments that Prosecutor Mueller filed against the individuals in Russia who did it, who they have their names. So there's just no question here. So, yeah, the answer to your question is Trump and Putin are the two people that benefit from this theory.
Look, it's the Russian disinformation campaign being parroted by elected U.S. officials now, which is a notable thing. Senator Angus King from Maine, thank you for being with us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, John.
You got that one right. That one was right.
I have a great friend. He was a producer that I worked with for years. He would be flattered by the comparison.
Sure, yes.
Both men should be flattered by the comparison.
I'm sure they are.